essential for all forms of life. This life-giving element exists in various forms, including glaciers, oceans, streams, rivers, and lakes, covering more than 2/3 of the Earth's surface. But unfortunately, 97% of the total water available on Earth is saline in the form of oceans. Only the remaining 3% is fresh water, out of which 2% is locked up in polar regions in the form of ice, 0.5% is underground, and only 0.5% available to us for consumption. Of this are some low-lying water bodies and catchment areas, integral to a healthy environment. Nature's most diverse and productive ecosystems. They play a crucial role in replenishing and keeping our water systems intact. Wetlands are a unique part of ecosystems, a natural link between land and water. They support a wide spectrum of life forms, including tiny microbes and birds, an essential part of this fragile environment. According to Ramsar Convention, wetlands are any water bodies which are natural or artificial, with static or flowing water, fresh, brackish or salt, having depth of not more than 6 meters during the low tide. Often referred to as the kidneys of environment, they play the critical role of filters and help purify surface water by trapping suspended solid material and nutrients. Wetlands act as a storehouse of water by absorbing excess water during monsoons and release it in our wells, rivers, and groundwater aquifers during the dry season, ensuring a constant supply of water. This natural cycle helps maintain the underground water table throughout the year. Apart from being a vital source of water, wetlands also play an important ecological role as carbon sinks. A wide range of vegetation wetlands support help store carbon and play an important role in combating climate change. India, with its vast geographical terrain and climatic conditions, is blessed with a rich diversity of inland and coastal wetlands. We cannot neglect the existence and value of wetlands on Earth, Ramsar Convention is the only global environmental treaty which makes people aware of wetlands and makes efforts to try and preserve them. 25 sites have been recognized by the Ramsar Convention in India. Some of the major wetlands in India include Wular, Somoriri and Harike lakes in the north, Deepor Bhil, Bhitarkanika and Chilika lakes in the east, Point Calumet, Kulleru and Sastamakota lakes in the south, Kevladev Ghana and Sambar lakes in the west. Unfortunately, many of these wetlands are rapidly disappearing. Diverse life forms thriving on these wetlands are also endangered. Once vibrant and supporting myriad of life forms, many of these wetlands are today rapidly turning into dry and lifeless areas. Recent studies reveal that we have lost nearly 35% of wetland areas over just the last decade.
There is no recognition of the fact that such an enormous wealth has been lost. Okay? Most people see these wetlands as just holes in the ground. See a lake in a city and say, well, it is better to use it for real estate and for housing than to bother about a tank in the city. They don't see the value of it. And so your question is a very important question, but really that's the big issue that India has to start studying and start understanding. If we have lost, and we have lost, a huge number of wetlands, we also know that water scarcity in our cities is growing. We also know that the cost of delivery of water in our cities is growing. We know today that agriculture, the biggest stumbling block for agriculture is low productivity because of the lack of irrigation. So we know that water today is a very major obstacle in the growth of India. We know today that water, in fact, is what is impeding economic growth. But we haven't been able to put a value on it and been able to put a value particularly on the water bodies. And I think that is really, to my mind, the biggest tragedy.
Wetlands have been drained, filled, and transformed due to various anthropogenic activities like reclamation of wetlands for agriculture. The most serious threat has arisen in the form of water crisis, which will create a scarcity of clean and fresh drinking water. In the national capital of Delhi, with more than 20 million people, access to fresh drinking water has already become a virtual struggle, making it one of the most valuable commodities. Now, Delhi meets 80% of its water needs from groundwater, our only saving for the future. Domestic and industrial sectors are putting huge pressure on Yamuna wetlands. Most of the city's domestic and industrial waste is dumped in these wetlands. Industrial pollution with the release of effluents is posing a serious threat to these water bodies and the environment. Untreated sewage and fertilizers used in agriculture reach water bodies and encourage algal blooms. These blooms relentlessly absorb the dissolved oxygen in water that suffocates aquatic flora and fauna to death, and eventually the water body itself. Filling up of these wetlands for the construction of roads, flyways, temples, and residential complexes is another huge threat these fragile ecosystems are facing. Apart from human pressure and encroachment, casualness of the concerned authorities add up to the already deteriorating condition of these wetlands. The same scenario can be seen in other parts of northern India, with different factors affecting the health of wetlands. Kevla Deoghana, earlier known as the Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary, is a prime example of this kind. With almost 350 species of birds recorded, Kevladev National Park is the only wetland in India recognized by 2 international conventions, the Ramsar Convention and the UNESCO World Heritage Convention. Irregular supply of water from Ajan Band, a temporary reservoir, and lack of rain has caused miserable conditions for the park and its inhabitants. The park receives water only after the local human needs are met. Due to continuous drought for the past few years with irregular supply of water from the bunds and receding water table, the park has been facing a severe water crisis. The government put ban on grazing, considering the destructive nature of livestock, but it did not have the desired effect. The ban was meant to maintain the health of soil and check soil erosion. On the contrary, it resulted in rapid growth of weeds, which reduced fish populations and nesting. The canals were clogged and the marshes filled up with weeds. These weeds are highly invasive and rapidly took over the sanctuary. The wild ungulates in the park do not eat these weeds. All these problems have affected the ecosystem of the park adversely. This can be witnessed by the steep decline in the number of migratory birds. Once filled with the cacophony of birds, today many parts of the sanctuary lie dry and desolate. A wetland slowly converted into woodland. Despite all the problems, efforts are being made by the concerned authority to restore the fractured ecosystem.
Once the water problem is solved, we will concentrate on the habitat improvement. During the drought years, there has been Prosopis juliflora invasion in the park. We should concentrate on removing Prosopis juliflora and bringing up the natural vegetation. Habitat should be recovered, and birds will automatically return. System has a resilience power. You remove the disturbing factors from the system, and system will bring its own animals and birds which used to flourish in the area.
Over 1,000 kilometers up north of Bharatpur is the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the paradise on earth. Here lies the most enchanting and the largest freshwater lake in Asia, the Wular Lake. But this magnificent lake too is struggling for survival. Once known for its crystal clear water, the lake is today undergoing a slow death. Infested with weeds and pollutants, a result of years of abuse and disregard. Originally spread over an area of 273 square kilometers, the lake is today squeezed to mere 70 square kilometers of greens patch. This is mainly due to the conversion of the lake's area for agriculture and plantation. Massive encroachment, siltation, and interventions to improve the drainage of water in the upstream region for flood mitigation has drastically reduced the lake's ability to regulate water flow. The unhealthy state of the lake has affected its charm as one of the best tourist destinations in Kashmir. Special winter visitors often avoid visiting it even during the seasonal migration. Along with the increasing pollution and pesticides residues that have degraded the quality of lake water, the plantation of trees to control water from the lake is also facing huge physical repercussions. The floods subsided, but the lake has shrunk considerably. Fishery, being the major source of livelihood, has also got affected very badly. And people have been deprived of their main source of livelihood. It has not only led people to poverty, but has also reduced the quality of life around the lake and its catchments. It requires huge efforts on the part of state and central governments to maintain its biodiversity as recognized by the Ramsar Convention. Efforts are now being made to restore the Wooler to its original glory under the central government's flagship Wetland Conservation Program. The restoration process will be at a huge ecological price. About 20 lakh willow greens will have to be chopped off to get back the blue. Since the restoration of Lake Wooler is of great importance, some ecological loss will have to be borne. Whenever one plays with the environment, both ways, the loss is always ours. The Wooler Restoration Project can prove to be a major step for preserving large ecosystems. The only thing that can save our wetlands is awareness among the masses and policymakers about the importance of wetlands and their economic values. According to recent global study, Asian wetlands are of higher economic value than any other wetlands of the world, which estimated to be $1.8 billion every year. Restoring the ecological equilibrium of this valuable ecosystem is vital for humankind and survival of all living beings. Conservation and protection involves not only buffering wetlands from direct human pressures, but also requires the maintenance of all other important natural processes which are directly linked in maintaining this ecosystem. Controlling soil erosion, reducing pressure on wetland resources, and changing the attitude of people in using wetlands as community sinks are integral aspects of wetland conservation. Along with making people aware of the need for conservation of wetlands, the livelihood concerns also need to be addressed. Preservation and conservation of natural resources and economic development need to be allowed to go hand in hand. It will not only benefit local communities, but also provide a platform from where issues of environmental degradation can be addressed smoothly. Is it possible to successfully integrate and balance development and conservation planning?
I think there are many issues in this. I don't think it's so simple as saying development versus environment. I think most struggles in this country have shown there is really development versus development. And that at the end of the day, you can build your airport, but if there is no water, then even all the jobs that the airport provides will not be worth it. So I think there are some fundamental issues here that need to be understood.
Human beings themselves have caused immense damage to the environment and ecosystem due to the lure of economic benefits. So it is us who must own the responsibility to undo the damage.
The main thing that we need in this country is a policy for water bodies, because actually people can't do very much unless the government has a policy to say that no water body will be touched and even the catchment of the water body will not be touched.
Several encouraging stories of wetland conservation are being reported today across the nation. A ray of hope for the dying wetlands. Neela Hauz Lake, one of the largest stretches of open water lake in the Vasant Kunj area of national capital Delhi, is one such example. The lake that has been the crucial source of water to the entire area is today battling for its survival. Huge amount of domestic sewage being dumped every day has contaminated the water's composition of the lake. Polluted conditions have led to eutrophication. More than half of the lake area has been taken over by alligator weeds and water hyacinth, choking the lake. Apart from this, filling up of lake prior to the construction of 6 lanes bridge over the lake is threatening the existence of this ancient water body. Dumping of debris and construction materials has further aggravated the problem. Ignorance and indifferent attitude of the concerned authorities on the dying lake has forced local residents to form citizens group for the protection of Neela Hauz. The aim is to restore its dying existence and bring it back to original form and life.
We were all worried about the destruction of Neela Hauz due to the construction of the flyover for the Commonwealth Games. So we came together to try and restore the Hauz after the flyover is constructed. We have been, basically we did 2 things. It was a combination of citizens' action and legal action. We filed a PIL to basically hold the authorities accountable for restoration and for revealing their plans for the restoration of the lake. And we also wrote to the various government offices like the Chief Minister's office, the PWD, the DDA, the LG, all these people. We carried on a publicity campaign through the media and through writing letters to ask them to restore the lake once the construction of the flyover was over.
Today, as it stands as an example of our indifference and ignorance to our natural source of water, at the same time, it presents an opportunity and inspiration for like-minded people to get together and contribute towards bringing it back to life. Humanity owes responsibility to the environment, which has long sustained us and can continue to do so only if we do not destroy it. With nearly 50% of India's wetland cover already lost over the last century, the time to act is now. Collaborative effort by the government, civil society organizations, and local communities will go a long way, not only in restoring the balance and health of the wetland ecosystem, but also provide a new lease of life to these disappearing sponges of the earth, wetlands.